Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Well, thank you very much, Jesse, for inviting me onto your little podcast here. What is this thing with pantless video interview? Because, I mean, that was like a prior requirement that we had to take our pants off.
I didn't ask you to take your pants off. You just showed to the no pants party.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, hey, I'm your captain.
Hi, Captain. Hey, everybody. Sandman here. So I am here with my first interviewee, and that is Hallis Chalmers, the original owner of keypicking.com. We first met each other sometime around 2010. I've known him since then, and we've been, had an everlasting friendship going on 13 years now. I wanted to talk about the history of Locksport as he remembers it, and the awesome impact that key picking had on the development of the Locksport community and what we know of it today. And no better person to talk to than the man, the myth, and the legend, Hallis Chalmers himself. So, Hallis Chalmers, let's get started by what got you into lock picking?
That's a long story, but started out when I was working as a diesel mechanic, and the Coke man left the Coke machine unlocked.
You never told me this story, ever.
Statute of limitations was right. But he left it open, he didn't lock it, and we had free Cokes. So I said, this is interesting. I need to find out more about this and how that lock works.
Yeah.
And spent a couple of years working there. Got to work security at a radio station. And I bought my first set of picks out of Soldier of Fortune magazine because there was a rumor that I was a hitman.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I was not.
Yeah. So you were a security guard, but you had a ponytail, you had tattoos,
You had a beard.
you rode a motorcycle, you had a Harley, and you carried a big knife, but you also walked around with a shotgun because you're doing security downtown Montrose in downtown Houston.
Yes.
Yes. So back then it was dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Right.
Very dangerous.
And so you were, I think, did you wear a beret as well?
No.
No, but
if I did, it was a pink one.
that's right. But regardless, so you had this personality at the radio station that you're not to be messed with, and there was rumors going around that you were like some
Outlaw
biker, former special forces,
Green Beret, Delta
Vietnam
Force
veteran,
Marines.
yeah. And you were none of the above,
No.
no prior military experience. But you were sitting there reading a Soldier of Fortune magazine. On the back of the magazine was that Arnold's gun room?
Yeah, Steve Arnold's gun room.
Steve Arnold's gun room.
And they just sell lockpicks. And my first lockpick set I bought was a Majestic lockpick set. And so when I got it in, first thing I did, it's at night, I'm alone, I'm the security guard, let's try opening locks.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. Start out with little file cabinets, get in there, find out what was going on.
What year was that, do you think?
Probably 86. No, 83.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember you saying something closer to 84.
I worked at the radio station for 7 years.
Gotcha. So in 1983, we'll call it early to mid 80s.
Yes.
There was an Arnold's gun room, and Arnold's gun room was really just some dude. Was it like La Jolla, California? Like some dude in his house.
Trailer park somewhere.
Right. We've seen a picture of his house. Like there's an address online of Arnold's gun room. And there's a picture of this guy's house. He has an American flag, in the front.
Yeah. Google Maps.
Right. But this was like the purveyor and supplier of all things like...
The dark arts.
Yeah. Brass knuckles and, switchblades with combs in them.
Yeah, batons.
Exactly. On the back of Soldier of Fortune magazine. Do you remember the brand?
Yeah, it was Majestic.
Majestic. Okay.
Yeah.
You probably already said that. But, yeah, it was Majestic. And do you by any chance remember what was in that pick set?
Standard, offsets, hooks, rakes. I think it had 6 picks, and I managed to break 2 of them.
Was it in like a leather case?
Yeah, a little cheap vinyl case,
Mm.
and it had Steve Arnold's gun room on there.
Really? On the case?
And I believe it did. Yeah.
How much do you think you paid for all of that?
Back then, probably about $39.
39? About right. Do you think, looking back, because there's a lot of pickers in the community that weren't around, but there's a lot of pickers that don't realize that this is a new hobby. Was there any other way to get a hold of lockpicks outside of being a locksmith and knowing a distributor?
You had to look at those kind of magazines, you know, kind of like Pulp Fiction stuff, and to find that stuff, because you wouldn't find it in Sports Illustrated. So you'd end up, you know, find that source, like, wow, lockpicks through the mail. And so that's what you did.
Yeah, and that probably felt like a more safe way to purchase something like that too.
Yeah, there was anonymity there.
Yeah. Let me pause this. We're gonna let the dog in, and then we'll
Who let the dogs out?
Well, I did, and we'll start this again. All right, so we're back. So you had the Arnold Gunroom Majestic Lockpick set for about $39, purchased on the back of Soldier of Fortune magazine around 1983, and there was nothing else on the market that you had ever seen before.
No, you could get lockpicks, you could get brass knuckles,
Yeah.
you could get batons, all the cool stuff that everybody takes for granted now. You know, you go to a gun show, you find that stuff all
Oh
over the
yeah.
place.
Did you ever know of anybody that picked locks? Did you have any friends that knew how?
No, I self-taught myself. I made my first.
How did you know to do it? How did you know how to use the turning tool or tension wrench?
I didn't. I'd stick it in like,
It's not working.
not like in the movie.
No, it's not.
Doesn't work. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And then I got, what's that, the lockpickers guide or what it was?
Yeah, there's like a, well,
A little.
was it
small
the
little
MIT
book.
one or was it a different one? Was the guy crouching?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I have that one.
Yes, I started reading that. Like, oh, wow, that's what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, I have it. Like Southward out of Florida, that whenever you spend like over $100, they'll send you that book for free.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the worst book ever.
Yeah.
But that book's been around for like 50 years, so that's kind of cool. So you did get that book eventually, or you got it with the lockpick set?
I got it eventually because I couldn't figure out how to do anything.
Yeah.
This is not working.
It took me 3 days to pick my first lock because I had nobody.
Well, the first lock that I actually picked was a file cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back at it now, you probably could have picked that thing with a bobby pin.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I spent 5 to 8 hours a day for 3 days until I finally got an open.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that lock and I would throw it across the room every couple hours. But so fast forward, you started having lock picking as a hobby. And at what point did you start seeing Locksport becoming an online thing that people were gravitating to? Because there was a couple forums online before you entered the picture.
I didn't really get back. I got out of the radio station and got a legit job and all that. And then I started getting interested again. Then the internet came out. Now you had YouTube. Like, oh, look, that's what I'm doing wrong. And so started watching YouTube videos that started the fire again. And so
What were you watching on YouTube? Who?
I believe it was Wizwazzle.
Wizwazzle? Yeah.
And he was like, the god back then.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, I want to be this guy. I want to copy the stuff that he's doing. I want to be able to pick a lock. And so, master lock, number 3, first one I actually opened. It's like, I was 10 foot tall, bulletproof, man. And then I got my first American 1105. That took me months before I figured out how to open it.
I always believe that when you can pick an American 1100, 1105 series, that you are officially a lock picker.
Yeah.
Because it's 5 pins. You're no longer in the 4-pin territory, but you're in 5 pins and security pins.
Mm-hmm.
And though it is just security drivers serrated and spooled, it is a great introduction into what is considered security in North American pin tumblers. And then anything above that really is high security.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great introduction into just just being a lock picker and being able to be like, yeah, I can pick that, or yeah, I can't pick that. Up to that point, you have no idea what you're capable of.
Right.
And they're fun.
Yeah.
So at what point did you gravitate online and find keepicking.com?
I think I watched a video and somebody mentioned something about it, and so I looked it up and I got on, and I was just a schlub, just living and learning.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably heard Wiz Wazzle mention it.
Yeah, he was on there. He was always putting up videos, and so I really gravitated towards that because I saw that as a skill. Unfortunately, there was a lot of stigma to it. People, you're a crook, you're a thief, whatever. No, it's just a hobby.
Yeah.
Something I like to do.
Yeah.
It's either that or brain surgery.
What year was that you first went on to keepicking.com, you think? I think it was like 2007 time frame, right?
But yeah, that sounds about right.
When was it first created?
I have no idea.
Lucky Lou?
Oh yeah, he's the one that started it. He opened up one page, and then it got hacked, and then he opened up key picking, and that's when I came on and I started just being a bother. I was on there all the time.
You think about 2007, 2006?
Yeah, around there.
What year do you think it wouldn't have been? 2005, 2004?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
before 2003. I don't think.
Okay. I think 2000.
It might have been there, but I didn't know anything.
What years
about it.
did you own it?
Well, when Lou left and I took over. Oh, let's see. It was probably 2001, 2002.
Really?
I think.
If I may interject, I know we met in 2010. I think you'd been an owner for at least 2 years, so I think you're on there.
Yeah.
2008-ish,
2008.
2009, maybe 2007. That I think you were on it for about a year or two before you owned it. So I would say around 2007.
Yeah, because I became a moderator, and I started working with Lou, and then he decided to go off on his own.
So I want to say that I call him the original owner of Key Picking because the guy Lucky Lou, who created the website, was not a lock picker. He wasn't a lock sporter. Why on earth he even created the website, nobody will ever know.
He was some kind of security guy.
Yeah.
I think like computer security.
Okay.
For some reason, computer security guys, a lot of them get into Locksport.
But he was kind of a grifter too, wasn't he?
I'm not going to say.
Well, did he pay the bill, or because
He was paying the bills, but he was always running short.
And so you stepped in to pay the bills, and he gave the site over to you.
Yeah, because we're getting hacked all the time.
Yeah.
And so he says, I need a way to keep track of the site. And this phone, he had like a flip up phone. He goes, I can't do it with this. I said, so what do you need?
He was keeping track of the site on a flip up phone.
Well,
that's impressive.
The internet, and all he had was flip up phone,
Yeah.
so he couldn't access the site.
Gotcha.
And
So you owned a website, didn't own a computer.
he had a computer, but he just didn't have the capability to do it on the move.
Yeah.
And so I said, so what do you need, man? He says, well, I need a new Google phone. Yeah, a Google phone.
yeah.
It's like, okay. So I shelled out the cash, and I bought him the phone so he could keep track of the site and stop all this hacking, because we're getting hit all the time. I don't know if it was some of the competitors from the other lockpicking sites, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a second, but keep going.
But so anyway, I bought him the phone, so now he's keeping track of it. But then there was a disagreement as to which way the site was going to go. And so he said, that's it, I'm out. You just pay the bills. Okay. So that's what I did. And, I'm paying every month, I'm paying the monthly bill to keep the website on the internet. I forgot who was hosting it. It was some company. So
You're paying like $300 a month.
yeah. I didn't realize it was going to get that expensive.
Well,
so not only that, now you're chief cook and bottle washer, because now you have to keep track of everything.
Chief cook and bottle washer.
Yes.
Don't dismiss that as just like. Please continue. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. So not only are you keeping track of all the new members coming in, but then you have to keep track of private messages.
Yes.
Because as a admin, you could see what people were sending.
And there could be people that may have been enticed to use that forum for illicit purposes. For legal purposes.
And so now, I'm spending a lot of my time, besides my regular job.
We won't say what that purpose is for, but we all know. Otherwise, if we say the word, then I will get demonetized and taken down. But yeah.
They know that we know.
They know. We know.
But so, I've got this job where I'm having to read contracts every day, come up with verbiage.
What'd you do for work at the time?
I was in telecommunications.
So in the time that you started picking locks to the time that you actually owned a website that supported Locksport, you went from being a security guard at a radio station to working in the telecommunications industry. You actually owned your own telecommunications company.
Later. At the beginning, I was just a worker bee.
Gotcha.
But, I was drafting contracts, negotiating fees.
I'm laughing at the 60%. But go on, dude.
And, doing exhibits, drawings, things of that sort.
Yeah.
And so I went from a guy who used paper and pen to now I have to type.
Yeah.
I never took typing. I didn't take home economics.
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah.
So I'm hunting and pecking.
But you are highly capable of. I'm trying to choose the correct words. Right? Your vocabulary and your vernacular is super high because it was something you excelled at while you were in school when you were younger, and you were a scribe. Is that correct? For when you were like in the unions.
No, I was a shop steward.
Shop steward, right. So you knew how to do like proper paperwork, proper
bookkeeping. Because you'd have these truck drivers. I was in the Teamsters.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing bad about that. But
no, my dad was in the team.
But anyway,
it's a Seinfeld reference.
Yeah. Anyway, you'd have these guys that could drive trucks, but they couldn't ride worth a damn.
Yeah.
And if they had a grievance, some of these guys were basically illiterate.
Yeah, and you had a very, very high English comprehension, high vocabulary understanding.
I was great at English in high school.
Yeah.
I
and you were able to put that into work with the Teamsters, but that transferred over when you started doing contractual agreements in the telecommunications.
Yeah, because
industry.
As a shop steward, you had to read the National Master Freight Agreement. Okay, so now you go into the whereas and henceforth and amendments and all that stuff.
And it actually touches in upon legal speak.
Yeah.
And you were able to take those skill sets that you had developed there and your touch typing and everything else into being able to actually operate the website and represent yourself and represent the hobby because you managed it very well. That's why I call you the original owner of Key Picking, because Lucky Lou didn't manage anything. He just had a website. When you came in, you ran it, and I came in 2010. You had already had it for at least a year or two, at least 2 years, because Rat Yoke came on the scene in 2008, and you were in charge of Key Picking 2008. Mm-hmm. So let's call it 2006, 2007. Mm-hmm. I'm sure an LP 101 long-timer is going to be like, nah, but whatever. So we'll call it 2006, 2007. And you held on to the site until when?
2010.
I think 2 more years past that. May I ask, when did your mother pass?
2011.
So I think you gave the site over a year after the fact, or sometime during that, actually. So yeah, you're right.
2010.
You're right. You started to hand it over in 2010.
Yeah, because at that point she was terminal.
Right.
And so I had to change my priorities. I said lockpicking.
Yeah.
Means nothing to me now.
Yeah.
I've got a job. I have to keep food on the table. I have to pay her medical bills.
Yeah.
And do everything plus I had a hacker that used to come in there and do stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And
you would block him, and he was using proxies and and all kinds of stuff, and he would just pop back up just to be a pain in your side.
And I
just
found out where he lived.
No.
I did.
But
I
know. But what I'm trying to say is he was going on there just to harass you, and you would remove him, and then he would pop up the next day on a different IP address just to harass
20
you.
minutes later.
Meanwhile, your mother was terminal illness 10 feet away from you.
Yeah.
And you were just like, boop, that's it. I'm done.
That's it.
Like, I'm done.
Check me out.
Yeah. And it's a shame because you love the community. You love the people that you met in the community. You love the hobby for what it was. And you created your entire friendship and, external, I don't even call them family, but you created your entire life on this forum, which was keypicking.com. And then all it takes is for one person that just wants to be a thorn in your side.
Yeah, just a
ruin
troll.
it.
That's all.
Yeah,
it
just
was.
a troll, and that you can't get rid of.
Yeah, and I had so many good relationships with other lockpickers, good friends.
Yeah,
that are still friends up till now.
Not me though.
No, you never were my friend.
No, we never were.
But yeah, so that I hated for it to come to that.
Yeah.
But
it was probably
you got to make a decision and change your priorities.
And it wasn't even if that didn't happen with that hacker, who still has access to the website today, I'm sure. Even if that didn't happen, it was still a stressful time for you. And I don't see you. I see you. I would have seen you passing off the torch, so to speak, regardless.
Yeah, I gave it to one of the guys that was on there. Who was like my computer guy at the time.
Elbow Macaroni.
Elbow, yeah. And I just, it's yours. You guys pay the bills now.
So you definitively probably owned the website for at least 3 years for sure.
Yeah.
And then, but you also still helped co-manage it for another 2 years after the fact until you just completely stepped away.
Yeah, I still get on there every once in a while. Just poke around, see what's happening. I think I still have admin privileges.
In those days, so 2000, let's talk 2007 to 2010, 2011, 2012 timeframe, who were the big personalities that were on Key Picking that stand out in your mind? Piotr, yeah. He didn't have videos, but he was super intelligent.
Yeah, he was.
So Piotr was based out of Australia, right?
I think so.
So Peter, but spelled Piotr for American English. But Peter was the most intelligent person that we had in the whole community, and he was like a bodybuilder, but he was like a shut-in.
Yeah,
like didn't want pictures, like this, very anonymous, based out of Australia, and he could figure stuff out for everybody. It was so crazy because that's what you needed, people to be intelligent. This information wasn't everywhere. And then Wizwazzle.
Yeah,
Wizwazzle was specifically only on Key Picking. Yeah. And then Kokomo Lock.
Yep.
Locksmith Army. Farmer Freak.
Yep.
Thule McGee. Ryam. Yep. XEO.
Yep.
Who changed his name on YouTube as Samus Aran. I would like to make a mention that my absolute favorite lockpicker of all time was XEO, also known as Samus Aran, and which is the character from Metroid. He was the first person picking high security locks on a regular basis. ASUS 700, Medico, biaxial, on a regular basis using a Peterson gym hook, just laying locks. He's the reason why I use a Peterson gym hook. And he absolutely does not like me whatsoever. But that's what's funny about being in the hobby is you can look up to someone and they just not, I don't know, like he doesn't want anything to do with me, but I still think the world of him. And I think that's funny about the community. The community will have its weird disputes and its weird dichotomy and its weird duplicity and its weird politics. But some of the best lockpickers in the world are no longer active today. They took their videos down, and I still hold them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And I always looked up to that guy. He hated my guts, but I thought he was amazing. He hated my guts.
You're easy to hate.
That's true. I have a hateable face. Is it the face? Is it the left side or the right side?
The entire face.
Does this help?
Yeah.
If I do that? So one thing that I think is very unique that people don't know, that Locksport was on 2 forums in America. There was a third forum, which was UK Locksport. which we didn't really have an interaction with. Every now and then, a limey would come over. Your words, not mine. No, just joking. No, but someone from UK would come over into key picking, and it was like high school kids meeting a foreign exchange student, because this is online in the early 2000s. And they would come over and be like, "Hey mate, how you doing?" And we're just like, "What the F?"
We're in Texas. We don't call each other mate.
Well, but it was funny because we'd never, outside of you being an amateur radio operator, I know I've never talked to anybody from the UK or Europe. The internet wasn't a thing. This was a chat room that we called the smoke pit on keypicking.com, and we'd get people from all around the world, Australia and Italy and Canada. So it was cool to see people from the UK for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not a worldly person, you know. So I am, but wars don't count. So I thought it was cool that people would come over from the UK. Yeah,
Sorry.
Great. It's okay. I thought it was cool that people would come over from the UK Locksport scene and come on to key picking. But there were 2 websites on the internet at that point in time. Now, somebody would be like, "No, you're wrong. There was this one group that was blah, blah." I promise you, nobody ever heard of it. Nobody cares. There were only 2 forums that were worth a damn. And that was Lockpicking 101 and keypicking.com.
Yeah.
Was there anything before those 2 that were worth mentioning that come up to your head?
No. If they were, they didn't last very long.
They didn't last long, or they weren't popular. I'm going to interview somebody at some point, and they're going to be like, "Well, I was on such and such group in 1989, and we had a..." Nobody cares because it wasn't popular. Locksport was 2 websites, 3 websites. It was Lockpicking 101, keypicking.com, and UK Lockpickers. Or UK Locksport, I apologize.
LP 101 was really big, I think, because they had a lot of tool guys there.
Yeah, so the open organization of lockpickers were on there. And I would like to say, and you can maybe confirm or deny, but the 2 websites were differentiated with 3 main factors. One was, I liked the site navigation of key picking. Someone could say, "Well, why weren't you on LP 101? It was so much easier to find keypicking.com. I liked that the GUI, the graphical user interface, had a dark theme to it, so you could spend 8 hours on the guy and not burn your retinas like LP 101 was just burning my retinas. And I liked that it had a chat room. LP 101 may have had some type of IRC channel, but key picking actually had a functioning chat bot, you know, like some type of chat box called the smoke pit, so we could talk to each other in real time.
Yeah, and it was more informal.
It was more informal.
LP 101, it's like ham radio operators also. You have guys that are very technically adept, but they're geeks.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk to them.
Yeah.
They're not real people.
Yeah.
They can sit there and talk specs. Same thing with the lock guys. They could tell you how the lock came apart, but to sit down and say, "Hey, what kind of cigar did you smoke last night?" "I don't smoke." "Okay, sorry." So that was a deal. You know, we were more informal, but I think we're more approachable.
Right. LP 101 was all white collar, very professional, very business-like. These people were like, they had a lot of rules.
Yep.
And they had a lot of restrictions. There was no destructive entry. There was very little bypass entry. There was no safe. There might have been safe techniques, but I remember it just not being an environment that I would just be like, "Oh, I'm going to go on LP 101 and make friends." Like, it's just not something.
Yeah, you did make friends.
But I could go on to keypicking.com, and it was a fucking circus and a shit show.
Yeah.
Apologize for cursing, but that's what was cool about it. Like, Wizwobs would be on there. I'm like, "Oh man, what's up?" And he'd be like, "Nothing, man. I'm just, like he was just
Chill.
a normal guy,
Yeah.
having a normal conversation, and you can get to know people." And there was a lot of salacious pictures that would somehow make it into the forum, into the
that's
chat
where I had to
group.
step in and
Hey. And try to one up.
no, you had to nip some of that stuff in the bud.
Yeah.
It'd get out of hand.
Yeah. But that's what was
I'm
fun.
not a prude. but,
But that's what was cool about the smoke pit was because it was like a bunch of people that could relax a little bit.
yeah, you smoking and joking.
Yeah, just smoking and joking. And until And that's what I loved about it. And then another thing that we had was we had a destructive entry section that you had to have a minimum of 100 posts, correct?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So if you got onto Keep Picking and you had a minimum of 100 posts, you would then be not immediately verified, but you could ask for permission to gain entry into the destructive entry.
Approved.
And then they had a whole section on just destructive entry, and that was super cool because they had PDFs and they had videos and that were restricted videos on YouTube or unlisted. So that was a great way, because Locksport to me, because I got in Locksport 2007, I got on to Keep Picking 2009, 2010, I think it was 2010. Locksport to me was not only just picking pin tumbler locks, but it was also bypassing, and it was also destructive entry, it was also locksmithing, it was also safe manipulation, but also safe technician type stuff, you know, because people were like, hey, I have this safe lock, how do I refurbish it? You know, how do I change the combination? How do I do
the drill
this?
points.
Exactly. So everything. So that's what I loved about Keep Picking. It was just more open and more accessible. That to me is what Locksport is. There's going to be a couple Locksport books coming out in 2024 written by famous people in the Locksport community that represent organizations, and they're going to have their own opinion on Locksport. And I think they do a good job in the book of describing what Locksport is, but I really like what got me into Locksport, and that was all of the different areas of Locksport. Today, there are people that are purists that are like, well, Locksport is only a challenge lock, and it's only single pin picking, and it's only based off of a karate belt system. I think that's great. That's a small facet of it. But back then, we didn't have any of that. None of that was around. None of it.
You were lucky to pick a lock.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And like, we didn't care if you raked the lock all the way up to an American 1100. Nobody cared. It was just, hey, use what works.
Yeah.
Back then, they didn't have a rating system for locks. Back then, they didn't have a whole lot of tools. Let's go back to like 2009, 2010 timeframe. What tools were on the market available to be purchased by civilians on the internet or through mail order?
Well, now you had a whole school of lock picking sources. You know, you had Southern Specialties, you had Brockage, you had what's the other guys? The other tool manufacturers.
HPC.
Yes, yeah, I had a
Gozo, Raitan.
Yeah.
It was all garbage. But now you had Sparrows was around, right? Did you already mention that?
No.
So Sparrows supposedly started in 2007.
They collaborated with Wizwazzle.
That's right. So Wizwazzle, who was one of the first Locksport YouTubers ever, one of the first, not the first, but one of the first. He had amassed over 2,000 followers back then, which was huge. And he was primarily on keeppicking.com. Side note, if you were on one of the forums, you were treated like the enemy if you came from the other forum and came on to Keep Picking. So if you're on Lockpicking 101 and you posted there, and you came on to Keep Picking and you cross-posted, what would happen?
Out.
That's right. You would delete the post and you would probably ban them.
Yeah.
Alternatively, if somebody was on LP 101, like Lockpicking 101, like Locksmith Army was, I think, and Rat Yoke, and they had an account on Keep Picking, you could have an account on both, but you kind of had to walk on eggshells, right?
Yeah, you know, you had to practice a little discretion.
And
It's like cheating on your wife.
Right. And I kind of feel like back then the forums were very competitive because of that.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. The friends that I have in lockpicking, I made on Keep Picking.
Right.
Not through LP 101.
I have no friends from LP 101.
Nobody had wanted anything to do with it.
I could name 10 people and then contact them today from Keep Picking. I can name one person from LP 101 and we're not friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't care less. And that was so weird that was the dichotomy there.
They were kind of elitist.
Yeah, they were elitist. But then they would come over and post and be like, get your stuff out of here. Everybody would like get on them and heckle them in the post and in the live chat. Yeah, it was Shark Attack. And then I kind of feel like that's where the competition of Locksport may have been developed. It was people like Wizwazzle and Kokomo Lock and Farmer Freak and Locksmith Army with their YouTube channels trying to build up their exposure for the hobby, but representing Keep Picking. Keep Picking was like the mascot. It was the home school. These were like the sports. that were leaving the school to go compete out in open water. And we were trying to be known for that. It was important for key picking to build up its numbers, whereas LP 101 was like, yeah, we have 20,000 members, but yeah, you only have like 300 active.
LP 101 is like college.
Yeah.
Okay, once you graduated college, you went out in the free world, and now it's like key picking. You know, you're not as formal. You really don't have anything else to prove.
I also saw key picking as like the military. It's like, it's not that we couldn't get into college, it's that we don't want anything to do with you. And I prefer that environment anyway. So it was very competitive. Very competitive. And so sometime around 2010, you started to hand the keys over, but you still stayed active for like a good 2 years.
Yeah, just to help them.
That's right.
Keep going.
I would like to say I remember key picking. I feel like key picking had a very sharp decline after you left, because the administrators who were just admin, like literally IT types in the real world, who didn't have a personality that people could relate to at that point in time, I feel like they wanted things to be more professional to help grow the sport. I understand that, but they wanted things to be more like lockpicking 101. So they did this massive banning of everybody on key picking. They got rid of Whizwazzle. I'm not going to name all the names that they got rid of, because some of those people are still active in the community today, and people would like people would like that time period to be forgotten about. But they got rid of a lot of people. They got rid of me. But they got rid of people who are still active today who don't want to talk about how they got rid of. But they just got rid of everybody that I grew to know and love. And then, but to their credit, they wanted to make it more professional, make it more accessible, and they did. They grew it. They got rid of the characters, the cartoon characters that we were, and they let in the newcomers who weren't going to be shark bait, and it did grow. So to their defense, they did a good job.
Yeah.
And those owners that stepped up to the plate 2010, 2011, 2012 have been the same owners for 10 years.
Yeah. I mean,
so even though I don't agree with the method, they were effective.
It's the same, but different.
Exactly. So I can't hate on it. It's not as popular as it is today as it was then. It's not as active.
No.
And I think the Facebook groups took over. And you were also admin of a Facebook group or two around 2016, 2017, 2018 timeframe, specifically for UK lockpickers.
Yeah, with Alan.
Yeah, with Alan for I think like 6 months, maybe even a year. And then you also may have done some administrative work for Art of Lockpicking when I was writing for Art of Lockpicking. So you did admin for several other groups and pages. And I remember we both were admin for UK lockpickers in like 2017, 2016. And we went in and he had like, I want to say like 12,000 followers. And we got rid of everybody except for like 500. It was something crazy.
Yeah.
I remember we got rid of everybody. And he was like, he's like, hey mate, I need you to clean house. And we were like, okay. And we're like, do you trust us? And he's like, yeah. So we got rid of, it was so much junk accounts.
Yeah.
It was filled with Nigerian princes and Alibaba, AliExpress, Chinese marketing.
Yep.
And we got rid of it. And we were like, if they don't have a profile picture and I can't see that they have an account, whether it's private or not, I don't care. But we're like, we're getting rid of everything. And we got down to 500 and he came back like a couple days later. He goes, holy crap, mate, what'd you do? And we're like, trust us. And I remember we built it up to like 2,000 solid.
Yeah, bona fide,
solid Locksport enthusiasts.
Yeah.
And that was bumping like 50 active posts a day. Like it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I'll tell you a little side note there. When I was at key picking, I had a subscription, monthly subscription to People Finders. So whenever somebody new would come on, you look at their profile, look up that name, and they're like, no such address existed.
Right.
No
Because when they created a profile in the key picking as a safety measure to make sure people that were not trying to do illegal stuff, you would ask for an address that would possibly match like an IP address, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And you would at least ask for a name and a phone number. And then unbeknownst to them, which is fine because they're on a private forum that you owned and paid the bills for, you would cross-check their name and a phone number or a name and an address, and if they didn't exist, whoop.
Yeah, and you follow this address, and it's like Zimbabwe. It's
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah.
Out of here.
Yeah. And that was important.
Yeah.
Because we like anonymity, but the anonymity should be your moniker in the open for everybody to follow because it's your persona, and it provides a little bit of privacy. But behind closed doors, you have to be willing to tell someone, listen, my name is Jesse, and I live in Texas. You know, if you need my phone number for verification, here it is. I'm just an enthusiast. And that's important when we're dealing with a delicate topic. And I think Facebook does a good job with that because now everybody has to have a verified Facebook account. I think people are doing really good with that. I mean, Locksport's growing. But if you're not careful, you'll get some person with, a Rick and Morty avatar, and they'll call themselves Jeff, and then they're doing creepy stuff.
Yeah, because in People Finders, you could you look up that person's name. If it was a legit person, it also shows any criminal history they may have.
Yeah, that's true. Back then.
Yeah. And so if this guy's a mass murderer.
Yeah.
I don't think we want him on.
And that's what I liked about key picking. You guys policed your own. You guys knew that there were elements of human beings out there, and if they did end up on the forums, you policed it. A lot of people think that the wrong type of people are attracted to this, but all I've ever seen in almost 15 years is that the people that are at the forefront of it were like, no, we're playing defense here, and we're making sure that nobody's getting past us.
Yeah, because like when I first started, when I was running key picking, there were some kids that were getting on there. They were underage.
And we had an age limit. It was 14, or wasn't it, 16?
Yeah, I think we had to bump that up.
Yeah.
Because
it was getting weird.
Yeah, and so you can't have an adult say something or post something that some kid's going to see. Now it's you don't want to go there.
It's wide open on some areas, but I like that about key picking, that you had a minimum age limit of 14, and I think you bumped it up to 16 at some point, maybe 18 now, but I think 16 at some point. And then when the 16-year-old lockpickers did come in, they were super helpful, super respectful, and they were like Beza from Australia. Beza was cool.
He's a good guy.
The lockpick kid out of Washington, I think, or Oregon. Yeah, he actually became an actual locksmith. So like it was cool to see these teenagers develop into actual locksmiths and tradesmen, but at the same time, I like that Locksport didn't allow kids under the age of 14 to come in, because I was like, I don't know what type of human being this kid's going to grow up to be, and when you teach a kid how to shoot a gun, you don't leave them the gun to take with them to their room, you know what I mean? But when you teach a kid how to pick a lock, a lot of parents are giving them lock picks. I'm not saying I'm against kids picking locks. I'm just saying I liked that the online forums policed it.
Yeah.
And therefore, I am of the mind that if parents want to get their kids involved, as long as there's supervision involved and the parents know their kids and they know their personality type, then I think it's great. But I'm just really glad that there are administrators that were, looking out for the community and looking out for all of that. So that was cool. Do you still collect? Because right now you're no longer involved with anything online at all. And
I'll hang out on some groups, but yeah, I collect lock picks.
Yeah.
I collect locks. I still like to sit down and pick locks.
Yeah, you do. Till
I get bored and I move on to something else. That's the deal. I've got so many hobbies that I'll beat one to death until I get tired of it. Like, I don't want to see another lock.
You were the first purchaser of Rat Yoke lock picks.
Yes.
So Rat Yoke started posting on what, LP 101?
I think it was LP 101.
But you had reached out to him and you put in the first order of like his lock picks.
Yeah, those green picks that you have now.
Yeah, I don't know how I got them, but
but yeah, that was the first stuff that he made, and
he was taking pictures of the two picks that he had given away as gifts. And I think one had been, or something like that. But you reached out to him, like, I want a set. And you ordered just like two at first, right? Or one?
Well, I ordered a set of regular picks. It was a city rake, a Bogota offset diamond, a hook, and I think that was it. And then
your dog is snoring in between your legs, and it sounds like your stomach is rumbling.
It's not my dog.
Sorry, go on.
But then I had him make me another set of fall picks, which you also have, because I'm that kind of a guy.
Yeah, fall. It's pronounced fall, but yeah, foul style lockpicks from NBA USA that Rat Yoke made.
Yeah.
Also now currently known as a curved pick or a spoon pick, similar to a spoon pick, whatever.
Okay.
But
take your word for it.
Yeah. So you're no longer really active on the forums, but I still see you poke around like YouTube from time to time. You don't have a YouTube channel where you put out content, but you used to.
Yeah.
You used to like 13 years
ago.
ago.
And I always get hit with music strikes.
Yeah, because you used to pick locks and then just show your hands.
That's the other deal I was going to talk about.
Okay.
Lock pickers are introverts.
Yeah.
All they want to show is their hands.
Yeah.
Some guys even wore gloves. Remember the guys that would wear gloves while they're picking?
I still see guys today wearing gloves.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And,
like it was fancy gloves too.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not talking about the cool, sexy latex rubber type gloves
No.
we see today. I'm talking like the white gloves. People do weird stuff. Leather gloves.
Yeah.
Weird stuff.
The driver glove.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but now you're starting to see actual people showing their face like you and saying, hey, I'm Sandman and this is what I look like.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
It's all ego.
I think if more people did that, there would be less of a stigma to it.
Yes. I agree.
Because now, you tell people like, oh, what do you do for a hobby? Oh, I pick locks. Oh, really? And they kind of, do that.
One of the small reasons why I wanted to show my face, even though I love my anonymity and privacy too, is I knew that I wouldn't have a problem with privacy because I know that I rub people the wrong way sometimes, but I don't foresee somebody knocking down my door to come hurt me anytime soon. Also, I don't see somebody knocking down my door to like get my autograph either. I'm not lockpicking lawyer. So I was like, there's no reason to really hide. But primarily, there's like a couple, I'm not going to give names, but there's been a couple people in the community that wanted to create something for our community and represent our community, only to find out they had a drug problem or they had a money problem. I'm guilty of that too, but they've had, they would collect money from the community to create something for the community and then not know how to manage it. But yet they were a representation of the community. And I don't want to get into any of that, but I was like, if somebody's going to represent the community, I'm not saying I'm going to represent the community, but I'm at least not going to hide myself.
No, you have to present yourself as a professional and be an honest person. There's enough dishonesty out there. That, you already get the fisheye when you tell people that you pick locks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just being all surreptitious about it, doesn't help.
Yeah.
Now, if you're up front, say, hey, this is me, this is what I do, it's a hobby.
Yeah. If somebody walked into my house and saw my collection or your collection and they didn't know that was our hobby, they would be like, huh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And then boom, you hit them over the head. No, but if you
bring us a gift.
If you tell them though that it's your hobby, that I pick locks because they're puzzles,
mm-hmm.
it's lock picking gamified.
Yeah.
That it's a sport. I compete for time. I compete for difficulty. I collect. I buy rarities. I buy customs.
Mm-hmm.
And I create everlasting friendships and relationships with people in the community that I have this like-minded nature. Then you show them your collection. They go, wow, I want to learn too.
Collectors are the only guys that will buy a $40 American 1105, but it's a cutaway, and they're willing to pay $100 for it.
Exactly. So an American 1105 that retails for $10 to $40. If you're a locksmith, you can get it for $10. But if you're not a locksmith, you're paying $40 from the locksmith. Somebody will cut it away with a Dremel tool, not very well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're lucky, it was done on a milling machine or a CNC machine. If you're really lucky, and they'll sell it for $110.
Yeah.
You can buy them today for like 80 to 110. I must have paid 120 for mine 5-7 years ago.
If they're done by a machinist who
Yeah.
knows his stuff,
Yeah.
and they look really good,
Yeah.
they're well worth the money.
Yeah. Same thing with custom lockpicks. I've shown my custom lockpicks to locksmiths, and they're just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like Thule McGee was a custom lockpick maker, and he made handles out of carbon fiber. Thule McGee was a locksmith for Kokomo Lock out of Kokomo, Indiana. And Kokomo Lock was a lockpicker who was picking medical locks and a lot of really high security locks. And they both worked together. And Thule McGee was like, well, I'm going to make some custom lockpicks and, sell them to people. I reached out to Thule McGee and was like, hey, man, can you make me a lockpick? He's like, I'm not really doing it right now. I was like, I'll give you $100. And he was like, okay. I saw him on Key Picking the next day talking in the chat room. He's like, man, who pays $100 for a Jimmy stick? Because that was his voice. He's like, $100, man. He goes, I don't get it. He goes, I don't even want to do it now. He goes, that's just weird. Because so a locksmith doesn't understand the concept of spending $100 on a lockpick. But to us, we're just like, this is amazing. This is cool.
Yeah, well, that's why you have mechanics.
Yeah.
And then you have pit crews.
And then you have...
And those mechanics...
You have craftsmen.
They've got the high dollars.
You have professionals.
Yeah.
That's also the primary reason why I started this channel.
Yeah.
I started this channel and I wanted to do the social media stuff because if you're a mechanic and you were a mechanic, you're a diesel mechanic, you went to diesel mechanic school out of Waco, and there's a difference between Pittsburgh tools and Snap-on tools or Matco, or Matco or whatever, Mac.
Yeah.
What did you use?
I used air tools. I used Chicago Pneumatic. Back then they were good.
Yeah.
Now they're made in China.
Yeah.
That, and I use Snap-ons, socket wrenches and
Yeah.
stuff. I did start out with Craftsman.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with
No,
that.
they had a lifetime guarantee.
My dad started out with Craftsman.
But they had a lifetime guarantee. So
Yeah.
if you snap a wrench, take it and get another one.
But whenever you could, you would try to buy the best tool that you could afford.
Yeah.
It didn't make that you were. It didn't mean. It didn't mean that you were going to be a better mechanic, but it meant that you took pride in your craftsmanship. It meant you took pride in your workspace. It meant you took pride in your profession, and that you were willing to invest in the tools to do the best job that you were capable of on that given day. And you were buying tools that you knew had a lifetime warranty.
Yeah, because you'd rather pay more now, but have a tool that would last you longer than have to buy that same tool over and over and over again.
Now, granted, a majority of lockpick makers don't offer a lifetime warranty on their picks today, but a higher quality tool and a better tool steel is going to last longer. And
It's all about making your job more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, alternatively, for those that are not professional mechanics, there are people that just like to collect tools. And they like the experience and the feeling of holding something that is rare or a one-off or unique or proprietary or specialized. Maybe somebody just working in the garage and working on a car that was built in the 1960s and using tools that were built in the 1960s.
Yeah, there's a big market in vintage tools.
And vintage tools.
Yeah.
And I've explained that to you. I collect woodworking tools that are vintage and antique. To me, when I use vintage and antique tools, it, to me, turns into a time machine. I immediately get transported someplace else mentally in that time and space that I'm using this tool that has not been used in 75 years or that is no longer available today. That's the draw that I see in these lockpicks. I see not only is it a time machine for me mentally or at least interdimensionally, because they're not necessarily old tools or antique tools, but they're taking me someplace like a spaceship, just transporting me someplace off of Earth. I'm enjoying my experience with the tools, but I also know that these tools are relative to our space and time here today. The tools that are available today are not going to be available 10 years from now.
No.
The tools that were available 10 years ago are no longer available today. That's why I'm a collector. That's why I buy the things that I'm buying. The tools that were most popular in the 1980s, the names are still around, but the tools are not really as accessible. Majestic, I don't even know where to buy Majestic.
I don't think they even exist anymore.
I don't know.
Because back then it was Majestic and Right Hand.
And Lab,
Yeah.
HPC, yeah. But now HPC has been around since 1956, I think. They got bought out in 2017.
And it's the same lockpicks.
It's the same lockpicks, but it's worse quality. It's garbage. It's 1095 spring steel, but the manufacturing tolerance and thickness is all over the place. I would love to go into a time machine, invest in Apple, and then buy myself an HPC lockpick set from the 1980s.
Yeah, because back then they were good.
Yeah.
You know, they were actually
They were good.
too.
They were good.
Every
They were-
locksmith had an HPC set.
and they were 21 thousandths of an inch thick, and they were consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like all the lockpick manufacturers today that have the popsicle stick style handles is really an homage or a play on, in a good way, because they're better today, on what HPC created in the mid 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
And so today we have Covert Instruments, we have Multipick, we have a few other makers that use that style of handle, and they have perfected what HPC tried to do for 50 years, 70 years, perfected it with the welded handles, electroless, nickel plated, whatever, chrome polished, highly polished 1095.
Uranium 235.
Yeah, unobtainium 301 high yield. So I love seeing that today. So fast forward today, what type of lockpicks do you like to use today?
I used to like Peterson's. I don't anymore.
I don't either.
The only two that I
you're-
use now are Jimy Longs
Yeah,
and Covert Instruments.
yeah. I use a lot of those. You also have a Moki pick set.
Yes, I do.
You bought that because you watched my video.
Yes.
Yeah, those are awesome. The bright green handled Moki picks made out of Germany.
I've got some law picks too.
Yeah, Lawlock Tools. You bought that after my video review too. You have a very extensive selection of
Yeah,
picks.
not as big as yours, but
Yeah, but like yours goes back 30 years. So like I'll come over and I'll look at stuff. I'm like, give me that. And you're like, no, go away. I'm like, well, give me this. I'm like, no, quit bugging me.
Yeah.
You know?
Go away, kid. You bothered me.
You have stuff that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
That go back 30 years.
Mhm.
And that's what's cool. And you're always collecting. And it's kind of weird because you have stuff and I have stuff. Sometimes it's the same stuff. And someday someone you may know might end up with your stuff. I don't know.
Could be.
Could be. Probably not me.
But yeah, at a point there, I was selling. I was repinning locks. I would take 1105, and I would take all the pins out. I just put serrated pins in, and sell it. Or some guy says, "Oh, I want
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was back in the day. Yeah, people still do that today on Discord, but back then that was a commodity.
Yeah.
For someone to say, hey man, I just want one serrated pin and pin stack number 1 and all the rest to be duds. And you'd be like, you got it. And how much we'd sell? Wasn't it like $10 a cylinder or $20?
Well, I sold the whole lot.
Yeah.
It's like $10 above.
That's what I remember.
I wouldn't have to.
Because I remember, I think I may have even purchased from you, or I know that you were selling, you would sell a cylinder that was all serrated, one that all spooled, and one was like all standard pins,
Yeah.
and one that was a mix between every other serrated, spooled,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
But that's cool. What do you think about Locksport today? What do you think it's going in the future after everything you've seen?
I think the possibilities are pretty much endless because you have so many people getting into making lock picks, and you have so many different brands of locks, even though they're all based on the same theory. But I think the tolerances now with machining that you've got, CNC stuff, that you can just replicate that same thing over 1,000 times with the same tolerances. You couldn't do that way back then.
Yeah.
Now it's amazing what you're doing. And now you got these guys that got cameras. They can look up into the keyhole and see the pins in there. That wasn't a thing 30 years ago.
No. And I remember when someone would make a video of them picking a Medico lock, and it would break the internet for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then today, people pick a Medico lock and nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
Like to us, Medico was like a black belt in lockpicking.
Yeah.
But now you pick a Medico and people are like, yeah, I picked 20 last week. And it's like, well, whatever. To me, it's still a big deal for me. I can't think of anything else to ask about this interview, but I really appreciate you willing to do this. This is the first time and only time that you have ever been willing to go on camera and just show who you are, your face, and take away the anonymity. And I appreciate your willingness to do that for me, and I appreciate you willing to let me put it up on my YouTube channel. I'm going to extend this to you and everybody else that I interview. If you ever want me to remove this video, just ask and I will.
Yeah.
So
I got nothing to hide.
I'll be happy to, and I will make sure when I post this that it's not capable for someone to like embed or to download or add to their playlist or whatever. I don't know. I'll try to find a way. But if you ever need this video removed, just let me know. I think it'll have a positive result. I think people would like to hear, Locksport. I'm going to try to find other members in Locksport that go back 10 years. I'll do interviews with newer Locksport members too, but I really want to make a rule. Like I want people to feel comfortable, and I want people to not feel like they're exposed, but I want to take away some of the anonymity and open Locksport up to the masses. I want it to be accessible. And the only way we're going to make it accessible is you have to be able to see the players.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to watch football if the knight in shiny armor never takes off his helmet at the end of the game.
If all you see is an arm throwing a football, that gets boring.
Right, but if you talk to them, and find out, a little bit about them, I think it humanizes the sport.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm just tired of seeing the same videos of guys picking locks.
With their hands.
With their hands. That's all you see is their hands.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even talk.
Yeah, I really don't like those. Those are the worst ones. Like, there's a lot of really wonderful new lockpickers that are exploring their Locksport side and going online and doing that, but it's like, man, you've got to have some personality at least for me to make a connection with you.
Yeah, because if that guy has a really wicked sense of humor, it doesn't come out while he's picking locks.
No, and I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to make it universal so it can be enjoyed across all languages and therefore have no barriers. But I did a couple videos where all I'm doing is picking locks and I'm not talking, and I hate those videos.
Yeah, it's like watching puppets.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like watching paint dry, bro.
yeah, it's boring.
Yeah, it does. So that's why I like Lockpicking Lawyer. That's why I like Bosnian Bill, because they had personality while they were picking.
Yeah, they did.
Hey guys, stay safe, stay legal. Like I liked that they would banter while they're picking locks.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your willingness to let me do an interview. Is there anything you want to add before we end?
No, that's it. I just wish that more people get into it
Responsibly.
Matter of fact, the cleaning lady the other day, she was cleaning up my house and she saw those locks. She goes, "Why do you have so many locks?" I said, "Because I pick them." And she goes, "What do you mean?" "I pick locks." She goes, "I don't understand how you do that. You need a key." I said, "No, you don't." And so I pulled out my tools and I showed her.
Yeah.
And I said, "Here's how you pick a lock." And she goes, "I never knew you could do that."
Yeah.
And so I exposed her to it. Now she's not going to get into it.
No.
But if you
She's
did
aware
more,
of it now.
Yeah. If everybody did that to one other person, it's like ham radio operators. Ham radio operators are dying out because it's been closed ranks.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you have to be, such and such.
And it's a tough community to get into. They can be kind of
snobs.
abrasive.
Yeah, they're snobs.
Yeah.
And I knew Morse code back when Samuel B. Morse was around.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But just try to bring more people into the hobby.
I agree.
And show them that it's not clandestine stuff.
It's not. It's just a hobby. I go to the Locksport meetups a lot. You've done a lot of Locksport meetups in the past, going back 10 years. And I love when somebody that would never have learned to pick a lock on their own walks up to our table and asks a couple questions, and their eyes light up and they go, "Wow, I never knew this was a thing." And then they ask 2 more questions and then they just walk away. I almost always see them again 2 weeks later and they're still testing those waters, like looking from a distance. But I love seeing somebody's eyes light up and going, "This is a thing." I understand that sometimes a very small percentage of them will be like, "Well, aren't you teaching them to be criminals?" And it's like, well,
You teach a kid how to drive a car, do you teach him to be a drunk driver?
Exactly. Yeah, you know, and you know, Walmart has sold more steel-toe boots, crowbars, ski masks, and duct tape,
Yeah.
and therefore has
Not on rope.
Exactly, and has therefore contributed to more crime
Yeah.
than any lockpick forum on the internet combined.
A thief is not going to pick a lock.
No, a thief is not going to pick a lock.
He's going to break that window.
Exactly.
Sledgehammer that door.
Just like a safe cracker is not going to crack a safe. They're probably going to, if they can't, they're going to try to take the safe with them and take your time breaking into it.
Yeah.
You know, it's most of it's destructive entry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything's destructive entry, and it's, you know, it's just a lot of like computer hacking. A lot of it's just social engineering.
Yeah.
It's just talking to somebody and getting the information you need. It's not necessarily spending thousands of hours trying to get into someone's network. It's just finding the faulty in humans, and that's what people don't understand about criminology. Is that lockpicking's not that. Lockpicking is literally just a hobby of exploiting a lock using limited tools, but using maximum creativity and you know, awareness of the vulnerabilities of that particular system.
Right. Let me ask you a question. What is your favorite lock safe picking movie?
Movie?
Yeah.
It's easily the movie The Score, but I don't think he ever picked a lock in the movie. But what I liked about the movie was three things. One was he didn't come off as a criminal in his personal life. He was a thief in the movie, but he was like a normal, like a jazz nightclub owner. I liked that. He wasn't trying to be a tough guy. And I liked that he had personal rules, you know, ethics, morals, not ethics, but morals. But I really loved two things that I loved. One was he had a personal space that he walked into this room, and then he would open up a secret door and walk into another room, and it was just all of the
Manuals and
manuals and tools and safe doors and safe locks and padlocks hanging all over the door. And ever since I saw that movie when I was a kid, I was like, I'm gonna have a man cave that looks like that.
Yeah.
I just glorified it. But I see the hobby in it, not the profession.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be a thief. But the second thing that I really love that movie for, The Score with Robert De Niro, is he said, if it can be built, it can be unbuilt. Mm-hmm. And that is what makes Locksport the huge draw to me, is that I see something that was designed to not be defeated, specifically designed.
Yeah.
Not just a puzzle, but a puzzle that has evolved every single year, and tens of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, has gone into the development of that puzzle just to thwart me, someone that's using limited tools in a limited space. And if it can be built, it can be unbuilt. That's my draw to it.
My favorite is Thief.
Yeah,
James
Thief.
Caan.
That's right.
Ah, that's a great movie.
That is a good movie.
I've seen that movie, I don't know, 30, 40 times.
Yeah, that is a good movie.
Caan is just such a great, tough guy. And he just, you know, he gets it in his head that, you know, he needs to get into this box, figures out a way.
And that's all he cares about.
Yeah, he's got a crew of guys, specialists who are metallurgists and know how to do this stuff.
And I think the term that it can be built, it can be unbuilt, was also in that movie, because he goes to the metallurgist.
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out how to get through so many inches of steel with so much heat and so much water pressure.
Yeah.
And that metallurgist or the manufacturer worker, the 80 or 90-year-old guy, he's like, well, if it can be built, it can be unbuilt. You know, something like that. I could be interjecting, but...
And he said, it's got to be portable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And how much does it got to weigh?
Yeah.
What space does it got to fit into?
Yeah.
You know, like, that was cool. It was problem solving. That's what we like about it.
Yeah. And then Caan was just such a great actor.
Yeah.
You know, he was a tough guy.
Yeah.
I liked the fact that he was gunslinging tough guy.
Yeah.
You know,
he'd pull out his wallet and he had 8 different credit cards.
Yeah. He could take a beating. Remember that line from the movie?
Yeah.
I like you. You could take a beating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I remember when he got beat down by the mobster, and the mobster's like, "Don't be a tough guy with me. You're not that guy." But he was that guy.
Yeah,
That's right. Anyways, thank you so much for letting me do this interview with you. You know how to get a hold of me. Your name is Hallis Chalmers. Are you on internet? Do you want people to be able to contact you?
I'm on Facebook as Hallis Chalmers.
Okay, you're on Facebook.
Doesn't mean that I'll accept your friend request.
Also beware going on to the Facebook We all have personalities. Just kidding. No, but yeah, you're Hallis Chalmers on Facebook, and you're still on key picking. So if somebody wants to go on to keypicking.com, and you could probably send you a private message, maybe once every 2 years, you might check it.
Yeah. I get a flag. I get an email that somebody sent me a message.
All right. So this was a really good warm up. Now I'm going to start the camera, and we'll go ahead and start the interview.
Before you strip down?
Yeah. Joke's on you. This wasn't recording the whole time.
This is where we do Greco-Roman wrestling.
Yeah. Do you like gladiator movies?
Are you not entertained?
I need to end this before we get in trouble. I'll talk to you later. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. See, does this work? I don't know. I may have to get up. Hang on.
Mr. Sandman.